Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, January 4th. Happy 2024, y'all, and happy Season 16 of this podcast as the LA Galaxy get ready for Miami. They get ready for LAFC at the Rose Bowl. They get ready for a season in which they need to make the playoffs. Not just make the playoffs, get a home game in the playoffs. They need to advance. They need to reclaim some of themselves that they've lost over so many years. And we're here to help you and update you throughout this year, and especially in this offseason as we get you ready for that very first game of the season. We've got a lot to get to. We got rumors. We got some departures, at least one departure. Certainly going to be a big focus on that. An arrival, which is going to be an interesting one. And then rumors. And yes, the rumors are coming. You're going to have to be patient with me. To help me do all that, we're glad to have him back on the show. It's Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Eric, how you doing, buddy?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
I forgot to bring the confetti.
Yay.
I still have the confetti from our 700th show, so didn't set that off. I don't feel like cleaning that up after the horror stories from the old COG Studios.
I still find pieces every once in a while. There's a piece.
Yeah.
Like I'll move something. I'll be oh, there's confetti from 3.5 years ago, however long that was, right?
Yeah, fun times. But yeah, excited. I was happy to be on the last COG of 2023, and then really excited to be on the first COG of 2024. I feel like these are good bookends. I'm getting a good momentum. I'm starting to cook. Get a little Will Kuntz going. I'm cooking, feeling good, starting to feel it out. We're ready. We're ready for a new year. It's official.
I really want like a catchy theme song when he comes on. It's like do 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 cooking with Kuntz, right? Like that type of thing. Whenever
it's right there. I like it. It's a little public access.
Yeah, it is right there in the thing. I would like to point out once again, season 16 of this particular podcast, rocking and rolling. So into
round of
our
applause. Well done.
Yeah, 2009 was the first season of this show ever covered the LA Galaxy, and now we're into 2024. How the time has flown. The good news is I'm still not making any money off this show, but I'm trying. We're gonna keep pushing. We're gonna keep pushing.
We could use one of the Panda's jokes, or you can say I'm making 10 times as much money as you were when you started. Because property is zero. Yeah. It all works out.
We're closer to zero every year now, right? Which is a positive, right?
I was gonna say, as long as I can claim this on my taxes, that's all I want.
Yeah, this is a loss. We're rich guys, and we just need all those loss leaders, right? That's what it is. Rich Galaxy fans. That's what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say I watched Breaking Bad. This is how you launder money.
Yeah. Apparently, I'll go with it. All right. Here we are. Now, I should mention, just if you want to panic, I like to induce panic. It's fun for me.
Oh.
I know, like it's a first. There's a limit to the First Amendment, but yelling fire in a theater sometimes is a little jovial. You're like, oh, fire! Oh,
does get the blood flowing.
Yeah,
it's the heart rate going.
This is our version. 52 days until the opening kick. 52 days. The Galaxy have to get through their preseason. They currently have 21 players signed to a roster. There's 2 draft picks, I think, that are sort of sitting out there that whether or not they'll make the roster, we're not going to count them as part of it because there's still 9 spots. I don't think the departures are over, but we'll talk about that here in a little bit. I do think that we're right on the precipice of some arrivals. It feels that way, and we'll talk about that in the rumors section as well. But as you know, rumors all the way in the back. Right. Well, we want to draw you through this show, right? That's how it works. So
that's how that works.
Just to remind everybody where we're at, we had Miguel Berry, right? We had Ethan Brandt and Tucker Lepley for our draft picks. And then you have the wonderful John Nelson, who's going to be the backup left back, right? So there's I
was going to say, are you not excited? Look at that.
I mean,
who's who? The who's who of signings? Colorado who? Miami who? Look at that.
I mean, the Miguel Berry thing already is listen, I said this whenever we talked about him. We had fun with this, right? We have Miguel Berry, 6'3", he's going to bring something. I did talk to some people and I did talk about Miguel Berry and the whole deal. And it's like, if you think that the Galaxy think that Miguel Berry is like going to be this game changer, they don't, right? I mean, they know what they're getting. And listen, there certainly is like, hey, maybe we can get some of that Columbus John Berry where he scored a bunch of goals, and sort of came out on fire, right? Maybe we can reclaim some of that. Maybe we're going to put in the right people and pieces around, Dejan Joveljic, which certainly seems to be the center of their and focus of their attack right now. Maybe we're going to do that, and that will also help Berry. And Berry also gives us something different that's 6'3" and the whole deal. Yeah. Now, again, this is not like, oh, Miguel Berry's here to save the LA Galaxy. It's that he could possibly be a piece, and they thought it was worth more than the second round draft pick that they were going to get. Right?
Well, I think whenever you get MLS experience and you're, as opposed to someone who's untested and you never know how that's going to pan out, you take that 10 times out of 10. So I don't blame them for the move. We're just having a little bit of fun with it. But one thing that we did learn from last season is with injuries, injuries can make your depth chart get real thin, real fast. And so it does not hurt to have guys on the backfill to be able to step in. Again, everyday number one starter, is that who you want? Not necessarily, but you're going to need guys who are going to know what it's like to play in an MLS game and get in there. You have, are we going to talk about Open Cup? Is Open Cup something that's happening? But at least League Cups.
I really think Open Cup is going to happen this year.
I think so too. I think their hand is already kind of been played. They tested the waters and then said, just kidding. They kind of have pulled back a little bit. So, but you're going to need the different competitions that are having on. Injuries can be a thing. So I don't think it hurts to add a lot of these depth pieces. So I'm not, while I did make my joke, I'm not mad at those moves too far, even though 52 days. When you put that countdown up, if you count your months, less than 2 months, that's going to come real fast. I feel like 2024, I think I mentioned this to you, 2024 is the year of rapid fire. Like things on Twitter, the cycle is now 3 to 4 hours. It used to be something like the Pop-Tart happened before we recorded last week. The Pop-Tart was not a thing. That's only a week ago, and it's already old news. I think
if we use the Pop-Tart, they'd be like, what are these old guys doing on the internet?
These guys are so out of touch. Yeah, cringe. This is big time cringe.
No, and it is. I mean, the whole point of all of these, like all of this thing. It's funny. I was looking at the date, so I had to change the graphic, right? So I was getting this graphic ready, and I was looking at it the whole day. I didn't have to change the date except for the year because it was the same. The Galaxy were supposed to play LAFC at the Rose Bowl opening game. It got rained out whenever they had the really massive storms and the flooding at the Arroyo Grande down there. Arroyo Grande, I think so. In that area down there, and so basically it was unplayable. But I was laughing, and I'm like, wow. The Galaxy sort of got a slower start last year because of all that, right? It sort of fell apart and that whole thing, and it was weird. And so now you're seeing it that it really does feel condensed, and it felt condensed at the time too. It's gonna be here quickly. I was somebody called me out on Twitter, or I think they attempted to. They said you said that that Vanny wanted everybody in in the preseason, before the preseason started. I'm like, no, before in the preseason, anytime in the preseason. We don't want to. The Galaxy don't want to be adding people in the end of February whenever they're getting ready to start to play games. February or March, right? And
to your point, signing players in February and then with visas and everything that we know how that goes. That you're not getting the player till April at that point. And last I checked, even though 52 days does seem like it's coming very quickly, and it is going to come very quickly, they're not training yet. They're not, tactics aren't happening yet. So while I understand when you see news from around the league, what Colorado's doing, and Cincinnati making some moves, Atlanta, I believe was involved in some different things, and it's like, okay, where's the Galaxy moves?
Yeah.
A little bit of patience. I understand. Right. Because you're seeing other action happen. It's like, okay, it's time. It's time to get the wheel running. But it's also nothing's been kicked off yet. There hasn't been training sessions. Let's chill a little bit. It can still be true that you want these guys in on the preseason,
Right.
And they'll be here before preseason. It's still early. It's only what is today, the fourth, the third,
yeah,
the fourth. Yeah, I don't even know what day it is.
Oh,
the
must be
Pop Tart.
nice.
I just know the Pop Tart's not cool anymore.
Okay, cool. Nelson, by the way, $5 super chat said, so Boanga is seeking more money with LAFC. If they don't pay him, do you think Kuntz would bring him to the Galaxy as a winger? No. No, I mean, ultimately,
for a $5 super chat, you poured cold water on that real quick.
Oh, am I supposed to indulge $5 super chats? Is that, well, that's a
I was
really
going to say,
good,
you said we were
question.
not making money on this. Yeah.
No, absolutely not. He's not coming to the Galaxy. And mostly I think it's because if he's going to stay in MLS, I think LAFC will be the ones who pay him. And if he's not going to stay in MLS, then he's going to go somewhere in Europe. And really, he's already hinted that he wants to go back to Europe. So that's a them problem, not a Galaxy problem.
And some of the leagues that he's entertaining offers for are probably going to be as deep as the pockets are with AEG and what they're able to pay for transfer fees and contracts and DPs.
Right.
I think when you're talking about the Saudi league and the bankroll that they're able to have, that can get a lot more appealing for someone who, as good as he is, he's not a U22. He's getting older up there, so trying to get those big paychecks while he's hot, I think that's a fair thing. The one thing that it does remind me of, when Chicho Arango became available, I wouldn't be mad if the Galaxy brought him in with what they needed, with Chicharito being out and Jovic having his woes last year, what Real Salt Lake was able to do to get him in. I would not have been mad at a move like that. So if something happens with Boanga
and he goes out,
not successful, he goes out of the league.
Right.
It's like, hey, if you want to come back to MLS,
we got you.
I wouldn't be mad at it. I know we're supposed to hate their guts,
right?
But you have to respect game when it's good.
No, I mean RSL played that so well. That's still a wonderful move by RSL.
Yeah.
Still like it, and it worked out really well for them too. All right, let's talk about the departure, because there was a departure. And listen, it was a weird timing on the announcement. I'm going to say it and the whole deal. I don't think, because it was tied to something else, I don't think this was anybody trying to bury the news, because basically we're going to talk about Tyler Boyd and going to Nashville. Nashville, usually the home team or the team acquiring is the one who gets to sort of decide when it gets put out. That type of thing, and it happened on Tyler's birthday. So it was Saturday, December 30th. It was Tyler's birthday. I think that's why they sort of went with that, and I think Tyler maybe wanted to do it on his birthday too. A Friday or a Saturday before a holiday is usually a really good time to bury things. I don't think they were trying to bury anything, because all I got was like pings all day on Saturday that were like, what about Tyler Boyd? And, all this other stuff. I'm trying not to pay attention today because it's almost the holiday. But I did have a phone call and reach out to some people and talk to some people about that. So what were you saying?
And one thing that I did see some discourse around it as well, and I feel like we've you in particular, because you're the man with the charts and with the contract information. We felt that it was pretty clear that Tyler Boyd was on a 1-year deal.
Right.
So I was seeing some of the wording, and it may have just been fans being upset with it. You cut him on his birthday and this and that. He was not cut. Nope. The contract was up.
He was
out
of contract.
Negotiations ongoing. Yeah. And to your point of him wanting to get done, if we saw the offer came from a different team based on, we'll talk about his Instagram caption. It looks like he was offered more money. That's a celebration. Hey, on my birthday, I'm getting paid. I'm going somewhere new beginning. Like that's a celebratory thing. Of course, as a Galaxy fan, I understand why it makes you upset. And we're gonna talk about the nuance of the deal, because I think both things can be true at once. I think he's someone I would have liked to have kept around. We'll dig into the stats with the consistency and what he was able to bring to the team. But when you look at what they're able to turn that around into, and I know it's not all guaranteed, but there's huge upside to what they got back from him. And so when you do the math and figure that all out, I can understand why, it was possibly a good idea to move him. So I think both of those things can be true.
Let's talk about Tyler Boyd, though. I mean, regardless of what you say, and regardless of what sort of goes in here, and we're going to talk about it from the business side of things and maybe why it makes sense to the Galaxy, what they're trying to look for, maybe there's reasons for it. There's also, this is a big risk by Kuntz and company here, because you have a guy who was basically one of your top offensive producers the entire year, played every single game for the LA Galaxy, the only player to do so. Played while he was
the kicker for me. The consistency, 34 games. 34
games. He played with like a broken thumb, I think, for most of the year too, right? I mean, we saw him in the cast whenever he got hurt, and the whole deal. Didn't miss it. 2,338 minutes. I mean, 7 goals, 8 assists in his regular season stuff that he did. I think he had another goal and another assist whenever you add in Open Cup and everything else, right? So really but not only that, but showing up in big games against LAFC, right? I mean, this is
He's
a
the
guy,
LAFC killer. Yeah,
and,
rightfully so. Named that. Yeah.
and this was the guy who ultimately would come out and say, I grew up with this club. I love this club. It means a lot for me to be here. And before we go any further with like any of the business talk or anything like that, Tyler Boyd is such a class act, such a wonderful person to talk to on a regular basis as somebody who got to cover him. Always happy to talk to us, always giving us his honest assessment of things. And so from that perspective of just, you really like covering guys, I wish him the best in Nashville. That's really where that comes out. You sort of, as you cover these guys, you sort of become a fan of theirs personally. And I really, you find yourself in Tyler Boyd's corner pretty easily, pretty fast.
Yeah, and where you see it shine is when you have a little bit of down luck on those seasons, when the Galaxy really, on the downtime, Sasha Klushin really became a fan favorite because he was the one who was willing to face the media and talk to everybody and be that voice for the Galaxy.
Raheem Edwards, by the way, same thing, right? He'd come out.
Same idea.
Yeah, same thing.
But Tyler Boyd, again, during these down stretches when your designated player is injured and not able to talk to the media, Tyler Boyd was one of those guys who stepped up and was able to kind of address things and speak and be happy to do so. And his story, betting on himself and being able to make it work. All kudos to him. And he was someone who I understand 100% why fans are upset that he's going, because to your point, it's a risk because you're getting rid of a consistent 34 game starter.
Right.
There's upside to it, but to say, are you going to find someone, that's a better quality than Tyler Boyd, that's consistent MLS starter? That's tough. That's a tough order. So
I'll certainly say this, not for the amount of money he was on, right? And we'll talk about his money here. Let's get to the specifics of the deal as the LA Galaxy announced it. And I say that in particular because there's a difference in how the two teams announced it, and I think I can provide some clarity for you. So the LA Galaxy today announced that the club has acquired 2 international roster slots, one in 2024 and one in 2025. Let's stop there for a second. The 2024 roster slot now gives the LA Galaxy 9 international roster slots. That now means the LA Galaxy have 9 of 9 international slots filled. We'll go over who all of those are right now, but that means that if they add anybody who is an international without getting rid of anybody who is an international, they will have to find more international slots. Now, the good thing is they have one for this year and one for next year, so they're already going to start next year with 9 as well, right? So already sort of playing and trying to figure that out. So that's the first thing. Now, we're going to put a value on those international roster slots here in a second, but let's get through the rest of it. The Galaxy got the 2 international roster slots, one in 2024, one in 2025, and $150,000 in general allocation money split halfway between the 2024 and 2025 seasons, so $75,000 on each, okay? So that's an exchange. Now, that's the guaranteed money, right? And so already you're sitting there going, okay, well, that doesn't seem like a lot. Now, we can figure that out here in a second. Additionally, the Galaxy may receive up to $625,000 in conditional general allocation money if certain performance metrics are met by Boyd and Nashville, all right? Will Kuntz said this: as we continue to improve our roster with the aim of maintaining roster flexibility, Nashville offered us a deal that accomplishes both of those goals. We wish Tyler and his family the best as he embarks on a new and exciting chapter in his career. They pointed out that Boyd, who was 28 at the time, turned 29 on the 30th as this came out, recorded 8 goals and 5 assists in 39 matches, played 32 starts across all competitions for the LA Galaxy during the 2023 campaign. All right, so we have that. Now, let's just start to do a little bit of math, okay? So let's start adding.
That's what I came for. I came for the math.
I know. This is everybody gets really excited about this. We know there's $150,000 in guaranteed general allocation money. We're going to add it all up. We'll divide it by 2 later. All right, so we got that, $150,000. Now, we know the Galaxy can receive up to $625,000 in conditional jam over those 2 years as well, so we're going to add the $625,000 to that.
Just throwing it in there. The Giassi special is what I like to call this.
I think that there is, and speaking to people, there is an expectation that these performance metrics are not outrageous for what you're expecting Tyler Boyd to do and his ability to play and all that. So
yeah, hopefully we're dealing with Chicharito extension level metrics.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Play 14 games. Good job, right? That type of thing. So speaking of, they think it's so if we just add in those two things, we're at $775,000. Okay, $775. Now we have to decide how much our international slots are worth. And Eric, the international slots,
your favorite game.
This is great. I mean, it is it's humorous because I think that either not a lot of reporters, and certainly the ones who are breaking, like Tom Bogert knows this, Paul Tenorio knows this, Pablo Maurer knows this, like the guys who are really involved in, we know how much international slots sort of go for. And my range right now is between $175,000 and about $220,000, right? So you just want to take it at the 175 and we'll call it good, right? So we'll take it on the low range.
Yeah, 175, even 150. I think as the season goes on,
they come
get
down a little bit.
Less expensive because they're harder to move and not as many people are bringing them in. So there's not as much of a need. So let's call it, brand new, not like a used truck.
Right.
Although used cars sometimes are more
so
expensive
175
I think is a safe
good
preseason estimate.
By the way,
international
I've
slot.
seen them go for as many as like 220, right? So you can get into that range too. So anyway, so if we go by what it is, just in general for what they've asked, the total compensation for Tyler Boyd would be 1.125, right? Now, that's interesting, cool, all fun. Now let's go ahead and also look at what his salary is, right? Because that is also something that you get back whenever you send somebody somewhere. And so when the salary comes back on Tyler Boyd was making, and we'll use his base of 275, right? So 1.125 plus and 275.
1.4, correct? In that neighborhood?
1.4, exactly. There you go.
All right.
Good job. So 1.4.
It's like we talked about this.
So now you divide that by 2, right? And you're about $700,000. The last one you can't really divide by 2, but here's the other part of this that I'm now going to cue you in on. Is it seems that the total cap out is going to be around $900,000, right? And that's $900,000 not including the 2 international slots, right? So really, there's a significant amount of money that will be available for the LA Galaxy because of Tyler Boyd, and this is what Will Kuntz is talking about whenever it's roster flexibility and everything else. Now, the bet that I think Kuntz has to make here is that basically the 900 plus another 225, right? Whatever it ends up being, is worth it to move somebody who's 29, who played 34 games for you, who was a really good offensive, but they think, and I would think here's the bet, is one, we can get either somebody who's less expensive, which would be tough because at 275, Tyler Boyd wasn't making a lot of money.
That's the interesting thing that you factor in because you factored in the salary as part of that 1.4 total that is Tyler Boyd worth keeping around at 1.4, but he performed well enough to where there was action in a bidding war where you weren't going to get him for 275. Maybe he was worth double that. So you have to factor in even more. And so are you going to get the same performance at not the same price, but a more expensive price? Can you get a better player for him?
What do we think
at that price?
What do we think Nashville's going to pay him? Because we were talking about this beforehand.
Yeah,
so
because if he was at 275, I think he played himself, I feel like up to maybe 500, maybe. I feel like he doubled his value with his time. So I can get anywhere between 500 and 600. Yeah. I feel like the Galaxy may have offered, he mentioned in his Instagram
that this is important
post. I didn't ask for the world. I just wanted to be respected. I feel like he played himself. Maybe the Galaxy offered, maybe they lowballed. We know that they've done this in the past.
375,
400.
Yeah.
But if we look at what he's worth, probably between 500 and 600,000 in salary.
Yeah, it was interesting. Somebody in the chat room says, what stops Nashville from intentionally hindering Tyler's? Well, because they want to win games, and Tyler Boyd is going to be Nashville.
They're a contender.
Nashville is very much a team that doesn't rely on internationals, that likes to get sort of the hard-nosed American or domestic players in there and uses them to the best of their ability. I mean, Gary Smith is really interesting coach, and he was successful with Colorado, and he comes in. It's sort of a defensive base, but they score goals whenever they need to score goals, right? And so they always have a very good. And by the way, lucky for Tyler Boyd, gets to go to play like in this brand new stadium that's in a city that just loves soccer, right?
They love their team. It seems like there's a lot of teams that get a lot of love around the league. I think Nashville, while they do get love, I feel like they get under the radar for not being a great place to play. That the environment always looks great. It seems like it's a really strong fan base given the limited amount of professional teams and how it's kind of new to the scene.
Right.
It seems like with the hockey team and with the Titans, it seems like they really get behind their sports teams there. So it seans like he's going to end up in a really cool landing spot.
So the Galaxy, whenever you sort of look at everything, is right around $1 million for Boyd. And go. I mean, it's not bad. That's not a bad turnaround for what they're doing. Again, at 34 games, right?
If that's what you're replacing, can you get 2 players who fill in, who are going to be able to give you 34 games and 7 or more goals? at $1 million or at $900,000. Even if you lowball and say 775, maybe you can get 2 players who can give you that same productivity. Then the math kind of checks out that way also.
Yeah, don't read too much into Nashville stuff, where the Galaxy may receive up to $625,000 in conditional general allocation money per season, which would have been like 1.25. And it seems like it's capped around $900,000, just to give you an idea of sort of what that is. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't have things that don't hit twice. I think there are performance metrics that hit twice in each year, right? And you can double those. But I think that overall they were like, it doesn't matter sort of what he does. They just said the cap is going to be this, right? And so it's interesting to sort of actually try to dive into the details of the contracts like that, because it's like, hey, Eric, it's like the Jogathon back in the days. Hey, Eric, I'll sponsor you $1 a lap, but my cap is $25. And you're like, well, I'm going to run 75 laps. So why don't you just donate $25, right? Like, you used to be able to write the cap in. I was always like, oh man, my parents were always like, nah, go for it. Do your thing.
I do remember that. Yeah, man, I've been far enough removed on an elementary school campus that I do not miss Jogathon and fundraisers. That is not a part of the job that I miss. Yeah.
You know the old COG Studios right next to a school. I literally, when they have the Jogathon, I hear it I'm like, oh man, they're back. Yeah.
The event is fun. All the prep that leads up to it. That's a lot of work. Yeah.
By the way, Jonathan gave us a $20 super chat. Happy season 16. Thank you, Jonathan. We appreciate that.
Appreciate that, Jonathan.
Very awesome. We got a $20 super chat 2024. $20.24, right? From Gilberto. Happy New Year. Is this the Johnny Perez breakout year? We're not talking about breakout years anymore. That got ruined by Efrain Alvarez.
But I think you lean into it. I go the other direction.
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Perez is this year's Efrain Alvarez breakout player of the year. I think every year we need to have one guy.
Robbie Keane's going to come give him the 7.
The Efrain Alvarez Memorial breakout player of the year. I think that there should be like a plaque that we create. Who's going to be the guy this year? I'm on my vote. Yeah, I'm with you, Gilberto.
Okay,
Johnny Perez. This is the year.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, when you look at
Boyd, who?
Yeah, Tyler Boyd. Who's that guy? No, I mean, here's the whole thing: is now there's pressure. There's really pressure at that position, and I think that the Galaxy are probably looking at 2 designated players on either wing. So when you say that, did you have room for Tyler Boyd? I mean, that's really, the Galaxy seem to be tipping their hand here a little bit, which is, we don't need to spend that much money on a backup when we already spend $1 million on a backup with Diego Fagundes, who's probably going to be the backup on the wings there. And the 2 DPs are probably going to be your outside wingers, right?
And I think you hit the nail right on the head there, being the hammer. I think that maybe that should be my slogan that I lean into. Are you going to pay Tyler Boyd a premium if he's going to be coming off the bench? Right. What are we doing if you're going out and looking for DP wingers who are going to be starting in his position? Why are you going to pay a higher value on someone else who's going to want to pay a better salary and use him as a starter? If you're not going to use him as a starter because you're going after DP wingers, then why not get the most value for him? So I think that's a part of the math that it's hard to swallow now as a Galaxy fan because of what he meant.
Right.
And there's no one, we're not looking at a replacement right now. There's an empty slot, but once those, potentially those DP wingers come in, that may change your opinion on this move. Even if he does go on to have a successful season in Nashville.
Right. I like Philip going straight to the heart here with the $2 super chat. Charlie Ruggs breakout year loading. Man, why you got to do Charlie? Like, didn't he become an artist? I'm pretty sure he became an artist. I think I've seen something like that. We should have him on the show. See if he still likes me. I don't know.
I was going to say, if the Galaxy were still on the Spectrum Network, there'd be a half hour devoted to where's Charlie Rugg now? We need one of those. Yeah. Where are they now? Galaxy stars of yesterday.
I love that. I thought we had another super chat. Did I miss one?
We did. Patrick.
Go ahead. Which one's Patrick's?
Patrick, $9.99. Viva El Rincon. I mean, I don't get it. I don't know.
I don't
know. Did I out myself?
Did we just cancel?
Did I say something?
Did we cancel ourselves?
Am I done? Good night, everybody.
Good night. Yeah, thanks. Signing off, season 16. It was good while it lasted. No, anyway, so thank you for the super chat, Patrick. Appreciate it. $10. Just tell the morons up here what you're trying to say. It's fine. So anyway, so looking at Tyler Boyd, I mean, that's where it is. Here's the roster right now as we look at it. The LA Galaxy with 21 players signed, 9 players basically to be added. I imagine more than you would suggest. There's, again, 9 of 9 international slots currently filled. Now, one of the reasons that you're not overly worried is that Gino VV can probably be loaned down, so now you can open up an international slot if you need to. Mitrovic is going to use his, that's for sure. Audi's going to use his. Mavinga should be on the trade block, but hasn't been so far. I wouldn't be surprised if they buy. Listen, buyouts are a thing of the past, I would imagine. I think it's probably was a crutch the Galaxy leaned on with Giovanni Dos Santos whenever you had Zlatan and everything else going on, right? I think that you're not going to see a buyout. However, if I was going to buy out a contract, I might buy out Chris Mavinga. That might be the one.
It's funny you mention it because as we were talking about Boyd, I'm looking at, well, 275. What can you pay, Tyler Boyd that it's worth keeping around? You look at Chris Mavinga, who is most likely not going to be your starting center back at 399 as his base salary, guaranteed compensation at up to 450. That's a lot of money to be spending on someone coming off the bench. So we're looking at that comp to Tyler Boyd. Are you going to pay 450, 500 to someone who's going to be your bench player, when in reality, if that's not someone who's one of your bona fide starters, then that is someone that is potentially on the trading block. So it would not shock me if Chris Mavinga is on the trading block. But I kind of go back to, it's interesting. Someone was mentioning on in the chat, and I apologize for not catching it, but it was, we're not paying Nashville to take Boyd. So I think Boyd played well enough that, we actually got money for him. But Mavinga might be one of those guys who we may need to, and it's not Colorado anymore with the moves that they've been making. We're going to have to find someone else to pay to take our player. So I don't know who the new minnow is going to be. Maybe it's us. Maybe we're them. Yeah. We're it. It's been us the whole time.
Right, yeah. If Kevin Cabral comes back, then you know that it's us, right? that whole thing. Colorado making some moves which are interesting. Hugo Lloris at a non-DP over to LAFC. That's an interesting one too. By the way,
nice little segue.
Those are some interesting moves, and perhaps both of LAFC's keepers, which is the segue we were looking for, both out of contract, basically looking for a place to go. And the LA Galaxy did sign one of those. Now, this is a rumor from Tom Bogert, but when Tom Bogert says something,
I was going to say,
put it in the bank.
Yeah, when Tom Bogert says a rumor, it's not a rumor. He knows someone in HR at MLS HQ. Something, if he tweets it out, it's happening.
The paperwork comes across the desk. And I think he gets like a copy of everything that comes across there. That type of thing.
He's CC'd on those emails.
He is. He does a great job. I love Tom.
I think he works in payroll in MLS. That has to be
that's what it is. He, by the way, started his own YouTube channel, which you should go subscribe to. I'm subscribed. You're an idiot if you don't, quite honestly, because he's out there. He's out there just like throwing out transfer news all day. He'll just drop a video. Hey, here's the transfer news. And you're like, oh, okay, this is real coverage. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, I feel like we're a big boy sport. Look at us, big boy pants and everything, right? So Tom's doing a great job. But Tom said it. Now, not that you needed it, all right, but I can confirm the LA Galaxy are indeed going to get goalkeeper John McCarthy. All right, so you could basically put that one now. That's 22 players on that. Now, this opens the can of worms like you wouldn't believe.
Didn't we get a super draft goalkeeper, and aren't we carrying some goalkeepers already? This makes it very, very spicy and interesting.
Well, again, I think the super drafts picks are sort of like you get to play with G2 this year. That sort of seems like already what they're sort of. And by the way, not a horrible idea to stock G2 with super draft picks. It's not the worst thing in the world. I'm fine with it. But with McCarthy out there, by the way, McCarthy made 122, I believe, or 125. Let's see, I have it. 121. Yeah, 122. 121,667. That was his base salary last year. Now, when you say, why is McCarthy coming? The LA Galaxy have Mitrovic, which we have talked about on this show as possibly being the guy this year, right? They went out, they purchased him. They wanted
he showed potential last season.
He showed potential. You kind of liked what you saw. He's young. He's coming back. You're like, okay, this is a guy who's on the rise, right? And you're like, but how's that going to play with Bond? Well, they get rid of Jonathan Klinsmann. And you're like, okay, well, I mean, clearly it's going to be Bond and Mitrovic. This signing with John McCarthy, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about him here in a second, but this signing with John McCarthy is a lot bigger for this reason, is that it now signals, I believe, to everybody else in Major League Soccer that Jonathan Bond is for sale. And, it's almost like this. Hey, Eric, do you want to buy this watch? I know you didn't ask me, but did you want to buy this watch? Your first question is probably going to be like, well, what's wrong with the watch? Like, why are you trying to get rid of it, right? So sometimes you can't.
I got a better. You say, hey, I got this new watch. I'm getting rid of it. Yeah. Like, let me take this old one off. Yeah. It's like, wait, what are you doing with that one? Where's the one you just took off? Where's that one going?
Yeah, but that watch you have on, the one that you say you want to rely on, that's like a swatch. right? I don't know what that watch is. What is that? Like, is it made out of
Timex.
plastic? I know it's young, right? Like the whole deal. But like that's sort of how some of these things go. So it's difficult to shop guys somewhere. So like you can't hang a for sale sign on. Well, this is a for sale sign for Jonathan Bond. And there's reasons for that, certainly. If we look at Jonathan Bond and his salary, he's on $475,000. We just talked about Tyler Boyd and everything else. Well,
Is that what you want to pay for a backup?
is that what you want to pay for backup? I mean, Mitrovic last year was at $67,000, just to give you an idea of what you're at. I imagine he gets a raise now that he's been bought and he's going to be making more money, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's making less than $200,000, maybe in the 250 range, right? Somewhere in that 250, which is a lot for a guy who's going to be sitting on the bench if he's not going to be sitting on the bench. And so I think this signals. Now, could the LA Galaxy start the season with Jonathan Bond as the number one? Absolutely. I think this also is a challenge flag to Jonathan Bond, right? Hey, your place.
We've got options.
Yeah, we've got options. The whole deal. Now, here's the thing about John McCarthy. Really, really awesome pedigree. I'll be honest. Everybody I talked to was like, this guy is like the best locker room guy. He is such a team guy. And I know people are like, I don't care about that. You should care. You should care. This is part of it. Not only is he a really good backup goalkeeper. I mean, if you're going to have a backup goalkeeper, why not have one that was a 2022 MLS MVP, right? I mean, this is a guy who knows how to be a backup. He's is he 30 years old or 31?
He's 29 or somewhere in that neighborhood.
Hold on, I had it. It was 31.
While you
He's
go on,
31. He's 31. Yeah.
I'll go back to your locker room point. I think one of the big stains on this is obviously that he's coming from the guys across town at LAFC. And whenever that happens, there's always, you grit your teeth and you're not exactly thrilled about it, especially when it's someone who's not like one of the, like I mentioned, a Chicho Arango or someone like that,
right,
who's coming across the hallway. Interestingly enough, I have some contacts at LAFC and some people who work there, which is funny for me being the diehard Galaxy fan that I am. But the same way that people spoke about Will Kuntz, they spoke about John McCarthy, and that he's a guy who was a pleasure to talk to, was great in the locker room. And so I kind of name-checked Sasha Kljestan earlier, and him being a leader in the locker room, even though he wasn't necessarily, the all-star on the field, but what he meant in the behind the scenes. That it seems like that's what they're getting in John McCarthy from what I hear from him, from people inside the organization. So I know there's other aspects, to people's personalities, but from what we've heard is nothing as far as his impact on the team, is that it's all positive. So I think that's something that's really interesting. And then with the situation that they had with their Crépeau getting injured, he had a bulk of the starts for LAFC last season, 8 clean sheets. When you compare it to Bond, had similar number of starts, 24 starts, only had 4 clean sheets. You look at the save percentages, a little bit higher. So when you're looking at like comps, just stats alone, you may even be looking at a little bit of a better keeper statistically in John McCarthy than Jonathan Bond. So I absolutely think it's a challenge flag to Bond to say, hey, we don't have one person gunning for your spot. We have 2 people possibly gunning for your spot. So it's time to kind of step up. The last thing that I'll end this on is that depending on, how you view this Galaxy season, whether it's a rebuild or a retouch or a refresh or whatever you want to call it with the roster, this is not going to be the same defense as last year. So that's something to consider as well. Is, Jalen Neal and Maya Yoshida as your starting center backs, is that going to lessen the, burden on Bond? And with, some of the wingers that may not be as attacking and they may be more defensively minded, is that going to impact Bond as well?
Right.
And if you're able to get a healthy Brugman and Delgado, who, are kind of your bulldogs in the middle that add to the defensive game, could that improve? It's not all necessarily on Bond. I think you mentioned it. One thing that goalkeepers like to mention is that when the goals go in, everyone gets mad at you and no one looks at the defenders, for letting the ball slip by. So that's one thing to consider as well. Is there a get out of jail free card for Jonathan Bond if his defense steps up? Does it really matter who's between the sticks?
Right. Yeah.
When you look at McCarthy, Bond, Mitrovic, maybe they're all kind of in the same region, and it's just a matter of, can you save on salary, or is he going to be able to step up and do better with a change in the defense?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing, though. Like, you're bringing in John McCarthy. You have the discussion with him. Hey, you're our backup. You're either going to back up Jonathan Bond or you're going to back up Mitrovic. And if you need somebody, you can how was it explained to me? basically you need to give people room to grow sometimes, right? And Mitrovic needs a little bit of room, but you also need to be protected, right? Like, hey, if you go out and you have a
Cautiously
couple bad
optimistic,
games,
as I think the word is,
if you go out and you have a bad game, a couple bad games in a row, and maybe your hedge is not right, you're a young player, you have to figure out how to work through these things, that type of thing. There's a veteran guy like John McCarthy in there. John McCarthy was not promised a starting job, right? That's basically what it is. But I'll tell you right now, Jonathan Bond, as of right now, not promised a starting job. Mitrovic, not promised a starting job. This is actual real goalkeeper like drama here.
Competition, yeah.
And with Bond, here's the other thing. The top goalkeeper prospect basically in Major League Soccer, even though Zach Steffen going to Colorado was sort of a little bit of a surprise, but one of the top prospects is Maxime Crépeau, right? Coming out off of LAFC. We talked about Hugo Lloris coming out. This is why this all makes sense and all travels through.
It was one of the dominoes
right
to fall that I think impacted this.
Yeah, and I think so too, right? You sort of know where it's at, but it seems like, and from the discussions I've had, that Crépeau wants a lot of money, right? And so when you look around the league and there are teams who are looking for goalkeepers, who's willing to spend a lot of money on Maxime Crépeau? They're going to look for that, but there's also going to be a couple teams out there who are looking for goalkeepers who are like, we're not going to spend that kind of money for Maxime Crépeau, but Jonathan Bond is available over at the Galaxy, and we could go get him, and it's like a discount
prices.
Yeah, discount prices, right? There's always these things. So I think if you're watching anything, watch where Crépeau goes. Watch if Crépeau doesn't go, by the way, as well. That's an important sort of thing to pay attention to as well. Maybe people are holding out. Maybe Crépeau's asking for too much money. The more money Crépeau goes, I think the more likely Bond goes somewhere, because somebody's going to set that price, right? And then they're going to be like, oh, well, we can get Jonathan Bond for under that price, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised.
Sets the line, yeah.
Right. And I wouldn't be surprised if the Galaxy ship salary if he had to go as well. Because let's say you pay $100,000 this year or $150,000 for Jonathan Bond to go somewhere else. You're still saving money on that overall, right? That type of thing. So maybe you get some draft picks back or something else. But ultimately, what you're looking for is to clear roster spot. Now, let's not count Jonathan Bond dead either, right?
I was gonna jump on the grave. One more little smidgen. Again, I would personally, I want to see Jonathan Bond succeed, but one thing that we may not consider as well is he, has eyes, and he has an agent as well. And if he sees the writing on the wall with Mitrovic, he sees the writing on the wall with McCarthy, he may, look to make moves, say, hey, I used to play in England. Maybe there's jobs back in England. Maybe there's other leagues. So he could see this as, hey, the Galaxy look like they're moving in a different direction. Let me look out for myself. Let me, look for someone who can maybe offer me a contract, give me some extension, give me some guaranteed minutes. So he could absolutely, force the move as well. So it's not all on the Galaxy to make the move. Right. It's on Bond to kind of say, hey, I see where the writing is. I'm going to go take care of myself. That's something to consider as well. But that was my last little dance on the grave. I do want him to succeed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. He could also come in here and absolutely ball out, right? And the Galaxy...
He's shown moments, yeah.
Yeah, and remember, the Galaxy gave him a new contract last summer, right? The whole deal. So trying to sort of... I think they were trying to make sure that they place things. You don't know if you're going to be able to secure Mitrovic, right? There's a whole thing. So you want to have something to carry you through. You want to be able to do that. They didn't exercise anything on Jonathan Klinsmann, right? Because that was sort of up in the air. So they've really sort of set themselves up to make sure they carry somebody through, even if it was at more money maybe than they wanted to sort of put. But now it's up to Jonathan Bond to respond to this, because if he goes out and he plays and he balls the way that we think he can, right? That their perspective that he has the chance to do, he could be the number one goalkeeper this whole year, right? And Mitrovic is going to have to wait another year. It's that type of thing, because you can only do so much for coaches and everything else, but you're going to play the hot hand, and whoever's the hot hand is going to get the goalkeeper spot, right? So and
goalkeeper is also one of those positions where age is really something that plays in their favor. You can be, pretty long in the tooth, and still be a very effective goalkeeper. So that's one of those things where even if you're someone at Mitrovic's age, to say, hey, you're still very young. There's still a lot of possible career ahead of you. We're going to ride the hot hand right now. It doesn't mean we don't believe in you. It just means there's, goalie is a position where, you're not turning into a pumpkin very quickly. So that's something that we may bet on as well.
I will say this, and sort of similar along with Tyler Boyd. Having Jonathan Bond on the show multiple times has always been a pleasure. We love having him on. He's a great person to talk to, always has good perspective on the team. You like to hear what he says. A really top-notch professional and a really nice guy, right? These things, I want you. Everybody thinks that like you get these personal vendettas. Very rarely do you have like a personal There are some certainly, but there are very rarely do you get these. I like these guys. Again, Eric, you said it. You want them to succeed. I want every player to succeed. It doesn't work that way, but that would be great if it could. It's
one of those Father Time is undefeated. It always reminds me of the Batman quote. It's either you die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become a villain. It's just with enough time and enough goals go against you and not winning seasons. Of course they're gonna turn on you. It's gonna go sideways. So it's just one of those things that I'll say win fixes everything. I see it a lot in the chat is, can he do it? Can he not do it? If they start putting some wins together and he starts standing on his head, I've seen, keepers who we, thought were dead. Steve Clark is a guy who drives me crazy, but that guy just always lands somewhere. He always manages to have these games where he stands on his head. And this is not an insult. It's actually a compliment to him. I don't know how he does it. He doesn't look like a great athlete or a great goalkeeper.
But he does it.
And it's not, it's not pretty to look at when he's making it, but he just somehow finds a way to get it done. So, the goalkeepers can always find their way and bounce back and find new landing spots and have success. So, who knows what can happen with the season upcoming.
So that's with McCarthy ad. And again, the other part of the McCarthy ad is I think there's a little East Coast love in this as well. Kuntz from the East Coast and certainly John McCarthy from the East Coast. He's got some Philly in him, right? A little Philly. So he's like, I'm from Philly. He's got sort of that edge.
Does he throw the batteries at Santa? Is that one of those things? Was he one of those guys? Where was he?
Yeah, we should ask.
Where was he on Christmas, whatever year that was?
So anyway, McCarthy on his way to the LA Galaxy per Tom Bogert, and I can confirm that they indeed are looking to add him to the roster. So that sort of goes there. The other thing I want to get to before we get to rumors, of course, is that the LA Galaxy single game tickets are on sale now for the game against LAFC at the Rose Bowl on July 4th. All right. If you got to watch any of the Rose Bowl, or the Rose Parade, any of that fun stuff over the holidays, it was nice to see it there. I always enjoy, Eric, as you know, looking at the Rose Bowl on TV.
It doesn't get old. And here's one thing, my wife kind of mentioned this when we were watching the parade. When you're in Southern California, like you take it for granted.
Yep.
I maybe went, once or twice on the day after the parade to go look at the floats and kind of walk it. That's the sneaky way.
It's overrated to go to the parade. I'm just going to say it.
That's what I'm saying. To the parade itself.
Yes.
But that's why the best way to do it is the next day to kind of walk. You still see all the floats. You do it at your own pace. And then formerly working Parks and Rec, I used to work for a city that had a float that's sponsored. And so and I've actually hand decorated, glued on beans onto a float myself. So it's one of those things where
I can't believe they let you do anything.
you take it for granted when you're there. So to see it, as living far away, living in Texas, and say, hey, it's still on TV.
Right.
I still get to watch it. It made me feel warm and fuzzy inside.
All right, are you happy? You think we're lubed up enough to get to rumors? Because I know everybody's like, come on, please give me something.
Interesting choice of words. I'm not going to co-sign that, but yeah, I am ready for the rumors.
Ready for the rumors.
Cover me and okay, never mind.
No, you're not allowed to. That was COG After Dark.
Too far. All right, smash that like button.
That's right. All right, so. We do have some rumors. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is one that's not happening. And I know everybody's like, will you stop telling me what's not happening and start telling me what is happening? Basically, there was a rumor out there that New York City, Real Salt Lake, and the LA Galaxy were all in talks with Jamiro Montero, who was coming out of San Jose. And I can tell you that is not true, at least not on the Galaxy side. I don't know about anybody else, but the Galaxy are not interested there, so you don't have to pay any attention to that particular rumor.
Makes me happy. It's one thing to take players from a rival. With McCarthy, it's one of those where watching him on the other side, I wasn't a fan of it, but it's one of those guys where you hate him when he's on the other side, but you could understand why people like him when he's on your side.
Right.
Going for Montero, it just didn't seem like I didn't like him, and I didn't think he was. I was like, okay, this doesn't seem like an alley that I want to go. And then when you layer in the San Jose aspect of it, I'm glad to hear that that's not something that we're pursuing.
Yeah, apparently not a thing. So that's something. Here is what I can tell you. Yamane still happening, coming. That seems to be as close to a green light deal as it is. So anybody who's been asking why it's been so quiet, it's because that's happening. That seems to be very close to being done. So Yamane is going to come in. That is your right back, right? So that's going to be your right back solution. Aude on the left back. You have John Nelson as the backup. They're going to, Cuevas.
Cuevas is going to see some minutes.
Yeah, I think on that right back backup side of things. So I think that's pretty much a done deal. So you can start counting. I mean, basically, when you're starting to look at holes that the Galaxy need to fill, Yamane fills a hole and he's coming, right? So that's it. Here's what else I can tell you is that you were right. It is quiet.
I was gonna say I usually don't hear "you were right" very often. I was taken aback. I was like, "Wow, no one ever tells me that."
No, I was telling the listeners, I was telling the chat room that they are
Fair
right.
enough.
It is very quiet.
Mhm.
There's a reason for everything. All right, so I imagine, and certainly with discussions and things that have happened, that things are about to go. And when you look at this team, we talked about 9 slots, right? 9 slots basically being open, and whether or not you move Bond, it could open up another slot. Let's talk about, there's still moves that could happen that could make it more than 9 slots if you're really paying attention to everything. 9 slots. Yamane comes in, that's 8 slots, right? I think that you're going to find pretty rapidly here that if everything goes as it is, that you're going to have 2 designated players coming in here very shortly. I think that there's a reason that everything's very quiet. Right. So, and that's sort of like one of these things that happens is that these are nervy things. I don't know if people realize like these deals are nervy, right? Like you're like, hey, I want you to come to the team. It's okay, well, I'll come to the team. It's like, okay, good. I'm glad. So we're agreed in principle that you want to come to the team. Yeah. It's like, let's see the contracts. Okay. Now the contract. Well, we don't like this. We don't like, you know what? Quite honestly, this isn't what we thought at all. We thought we were going to do this. We said we wanted this.
Wait, this is in America?
Yeah. What currency is this in? Right. That type of thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know what timeline that eventually ends up being, and I know that's a cop-out and everything else, but, it's like, but it feels like there's this, it's like a volcanic eruption, right? You have all this building underneath, maybe there's a little shaking, a little shimmering, but for the most part, things are pretty quiet, and then all of a sudden, you get the full eruption. I think that's sort of where the Galaxy are possibly headed on this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you talk about nervy times. I personally think you don't get rid of a 34-game player, someone who started a lot of your games, was your leading goal contribution, without having the tracks laid down on at least, one player, if not 2 players, who you're going to bring in.
It would seem unlikely, right?
It seemed really silly to let, one of your best wingers of your previous season go and not have any plan or any type of succession to move into the next phase of that. So it does feel like something, is probably likely around the corner. But to your point about the nerve-wracking feeling, I get it. It's because anything can go wrong, and you don't want to end up. I think there's a bruise in a lot of people from the Douglas Costa of it all, from when he was signed, where it seemed like the Galaxy whiffed on the players that they did want from someone like Christian Pavone, and they ended up having to go out and find whoever was being shopped to them, which ended up being Douglas Costa, which panned out towards the end, but over the breadth of his Galaxy time, it was not a fun time to have Dougie on our team. So I think that's why fans are feeling nervous, and rightfully so. But I also think that there is, once you see, DP players, kind of start to trickle in, then you're going to see some of these more ambitious moves, and then you'll kind of see where the Galaxy are heading. I was previously under the assumption that there was going to be a possibility that they wait till summer to do some of this backfill.
I don't.
But
think
I
so.
get the impression from the front office and from Greg Vanney as well, he's not someone who probably has the leeway to wait till summer, that they're going to want everyone in. They're going to want to be, cooking and ready to go at the beginning of the season. I don't think they're going to want to wait to fill their main starters that they're going to rely on for 2024. I don't think they're going to wait for 2024 or to summer to backfill that. I think summer is going to be time for depth and, looking at where injuries land.
Yeah. And change. Like if you are not getting better, and I think we said this last week, but if you are not getting better in the summer, you're not winning an MLS Cup, right? Like, it's flat out. You're not going to have a team. Nobody in Major League Soccer has a team that's capable of winning an MLS Cup before the summer
in April.
You have to put yourself in a position to go after it, certainly, right? But it's what you do in the summer that either solidifies depth or fills a hole that you're missing, that makes you better, that makes you sort of, I think, that team that is then the MLS Cup contender. I think you really have to sort of solidify yourself, even if that's depth signings, like you said, even if that's coming in and backfilling places where you had a bunch of injuries or you had problems. I think you have to get better in the summer. That doesn't mean you have to sign in 7 new DPs, right? That type of thing. You just need to make sure you improve your team in the summer, and depending on how much improvement you need depends on sort of what big sort of jump you're going to have to go after. I think it's very interesting how all this is sort of coming down and playing out. But Patrick says, you need to have those international slots before you sign the players. You don't actually, because there's no roster compliance until right before the beginning of the season. So technically speaking, you can sign whoever you want now. You just have to be roster compliant by usually it's the day or two before the first game, right?
Yeah, the old Joao Pedro, send him down, bring him up, dance around. Like you said, Gino Vivi is probably going to be doing some dancing between rosters. And, to your point, you could sign those internationals, and then maybe that's where you start to figure out, all right, who has the American wife that they can marry and kind of get that green card fast forwarded and get going. You find all these creative ways to kind of get around that. So, to your point, they have 52 days to figure that out.
Yeah, it was funny. Philip gives us a $2 super chat. Who do you consider a Douglas Costa or a Doug Costa? Sorry, Doug. A Doug Costa type panic buy. And it's like, it's not going to be a player, but it's going to be an age range, right? If you're getting somebody who's 32, 33 as sort of your main winger, which, again, from everything I've been looking at, I think you're looking at wingers. By the way, I would like to point out that I feel like the Galaxy cash outflow that's about to be made, the check that's about to be written by Uncle Phil, is probably just south of $20 million whenever you're going to bring in two players for two designated players. That, by the way, that's not salary, as you and I were talking
transfer
about.
Fees.
That's transfer
fees.
fees.
That's just to get the guy,
I mean,
then you got to pay him.
I mean, I'm fairly certain that you're in the 12 range for one of them. And then just sort of doing the math myself, you're probably not going to pay another 12, right? That's 20. That sounds like a lot. You're probably not even going to pay 8, which would put you at 20, but would you pay 6, which would take you to 18? I mean,
what is if the player's available and the resume is there, then maybe 8 is worth it. Maybe 20 mil is the right number.
Right. And so I think right around, which by the way, a massive number.
That's huge for one season. Yeah. To dive in. Yeah.
Yeah. You're bringing these guys, right. The whole deal. Now you're also sort of looking at what Kuntz has sort of talked about, which was, finding those younger guys who can extend and sort of, be part of the core going here for the next 2, 3, 4 years. Right. So, that's something to watch. That's how it is. But that's where it feels like everything is going. I would like to point out one more rumor that really doesn't have anything to do with the LA Galaxy, but I thought it at least was fun. With Chicharito going to Chivas, it looks like. Oh, by the way,
the most predictable move in history. We could have told you this 4 years ago.
How did it wait so long? How did it wait so long for it to finally be a thing? Herculez Gomez talking about it, and Sergio over on Deportes, I think, on ESPN Deportes.
Sergio Dip, yeah.
Yep, Sergio Dip was
ESPN Deportes legend. Yeah.
So Sergio's over there talking it up and talking about him going to Guadalajara. So not surprising. I heard Cade Cowell also might be going to Chivas. Really interesting possible move too. San Jose guy who just freaking tears up. I mean, you want to talk about somebody you would love to steal, like a Cade Cowell type? Absolutely.
He is someone had a breakout, and then he didn't live.
San Jose.
Reminds me a little bit of that Efrain Alvarez breakout years. Like, is this going to be the year? So maybe he can go to Liga MX and recapture some of that magic.
Yeah. So this is sort of where we sit now. I know that there's a lot of people who are like, well, that's not. It just. I'm just telling you sort of where I think we stand, right? And obviously through conversations and everything else, I can use deduction and put two things together as well. I mean, the quietness is uneasy. Listen, usually you can text people, you get answers right back. I'll tell you right now, you're not getting answers right back. It's little crickets out there,
which is a good thing.
It is. It doesn't bother me at all.
It's not damage control. Nope. They're not spinning it. They're not telling you one thing. It means, hey, I don't want to even hint something because I don't want to put whatever deal is in the works in danger. So that's radio silent can be a good thing.
Philip goes, is Cade Cowell still 16? I'm pretty sure he's always 16. Breakout year for Cade Cowell. This is the year. This is what it's coming. John Perez, breakout year. Last thing I think we wanted to talk about a little bit is Footy Headlines had some. We've talked about the third kit for the LA Galaxy, right? Well, apparently there's a colorway of a third kit. It may look familiar to you. You may be enjoying it. Let's show you what Footy Headlines says the 2024 third kit LA Galaxy, which I heard the kit is coming in the summertime.
August, I believe. And when you look at when the third kit releases that happened last season, they were later on in the season. I believe Atlanta had one. I believe the Red Bulls had one. A few other teams ended up with third kits, and they weren't to start the season. It was either some type of special event or some of the derbies or rivalry weeks is when they kind of broke out when they busted out
yes.
busted out these new threads. But one of the interesting things about the Footy Headlines, when they report on these things, it's usually fairly accurate. So the fact that they reported that there was a third kit, that was a sign, okay, a third kit is definitely going to be coming. And then when they talk about the colorways, that's something they're usually very accurate, even if they don't have the leaks of the jersey itself.
Right.
Being able to have access to the colorway is something that they're able to do. And when you look at the colorway, the jersey that they referenced is the 97 jersey, which we already did this.
Yeah.
We've already copied this. So
that
people who are saying, are they just going to copy it again? I want you to think hard. Those colors, while they do apply to 1997, they also apply to some other years as well. So if you think about some other years that they wore those colors, maybe at the beginning of their inception, 1996,
okay,
those colors line up with that 1996 jersey as well. And that's something that a lot of fans have been clamoring for, those throwbacks. I don't know if we're even allowed to talk about retros as anymore, but that thing was, they were selling 96 style jerseys, Hurtado jerseys left and right. So I think there's definitely a market. I think the Galaxy sees that. And I think that that's something that I wouldn't be shocked if it kind of falls in line, those colors, because we've already seen this 97 copy, and that was a hit as well. So I think they're smart in going back to the well. These colors really seem to be, popular secondary colors for the Galaxy.
Well, Jason goes, any confirmation on the primary white kit? And I will say, I'm pretty sure it's going to be white. I mean, it seems like it would.
I think Adidas is going to outfit them, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That one I can confirm.
Okay.
I have sources on the inside.
You're pretty sure that's the way it's going to go, huh? All right. So anyway, so those are sort of the things that come up. All right. Well, that's about it. I mean, did you have anything else that you wanted to talk about? I think we covered most of the stuff.
Again, we came in with nothing. An hour later, we did it. We did it, Joe. We did it once again.
Once again, we did it.
One thing I did want to mention, I don't know if we've mentioned it, but the United Soccer Coaches Convention coming up next week. I don't know if you'll be there. I think I'll be there.
Yeah, you'll be there. I think
COG
Panda might be there as well. So I
just want to shout that out. If you're going to be, near Anaheim or at the United Soccer Coaches Convention, come check us out. We'll be in Media Row, or if you want to attend, I think we have a promo code.
Galaxy 24. Yeah.
Galaxy 24. If you go to unitedsoccercoaches.org, if you want to attend, if you're a coach, or if you want to look at some of the classes and things that they're offering there. Interesting. I've never been. I've always heard about this conference. I've heard it's a good time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for the opportunity to kind of see how how the sausage is made behind the scenes at this convention. Just excited to kind of rep COG and see maybe we can get some content and get some things going for the show being there on Media Row. So looking forward to that. That's next week, January 10th through the 14th.
There you go. The other thing I would point out is that we got an RSVP from our favorite space alien who said that if we're doing a meetup before the Inter Miami game, the first game of the season, that he wants to come. So I imagine we're going to make that work. I'm going to figure out how good and how big that needs to be. We'll see. We're going to work with the LA Galaxy as much as we can on this stuff. Also still working on Coachella stuff. We think we're trying to figure out a date. We think we may have a date. Well, as soon as we know what it is, we'll let you know, and then you can buy tickets. You can come out, but it should be a pretty interesting show. I think you're not gonna make that one. You're gonna be you're like wait a minute.
I'm using all my credits. You're like wait a minute. Coaches Convention, home opener. I've only got so many of these cards that I could play.
He's driving. He's going to drive from Texas to the desert. It's like 2 hours closer. I don't know it's like closer to you. It's the desert.
I'm going to figure it.
Yeah. Well,
life, as they say in Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
Life finds a way, as always. But anyway, so possibly some stuff there as well. Let's get to some last little super chats. Lasso's Optimism, as always, appreciate you. $10 super chat. Happy New Year's, gents. Trying to stay positive and still believing. Positive vibes for 24. I like it. And Gary, $5 super chat. Gary, always appreciate you. Rad show. Thank you guys. Thank you, Gary. Thank you for everybody who stood in there. And last chance for super chats here before we completely get out of here.
Big shout out to Gary and Lasso's Optimism, two of the all-time chat all-stars there. If there was a all-time 11 for the chat, they would definitely be on it. Right up there. Appreciate you guys. And everyone else in the chat as well, of course.
Yeah, I love you all equally. You hear that? Could he sit on the fence anymore? Jesus.
It's my thing. You know me. I can't commit one way or the other.
It's awesome. No, we appreciate everybody who's always in the chat room, and we appreciate all of our listeners as well. So hope you guys are doing well. We're back for season 16. We're ready to rock and roll. As soon as the LA Galaxy want to start signing players, we'll start talking about them, the whole deal. I know there's even people who are sort of, come on, do something, hurry up. I know there's a lot of people who are sort of in that way, but my whole thing right now is I'm still very optimistic. Mostly because I get to see the wheels turning more than you do. But I'm trying to tell you the wheels are turning. All right.
Fun times. Be patient. Be patient, everyone. Still early.
It's still early.
52 days.
All right.
52 days is a long time. 52 days is a short time, but
either way,
it's okay.
It could be either way. All right, tell people where they can find you, Eric.
All right, as always, you can find me on everything at Hammer EV9, X, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Threads at Hammer EV and the number 9.
All right, if you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over to cornerofthegalaxy.com where you can find all our stuff. Rumor Tracker was just updated as well, so you can find all of your wonderful rumors ranked there from best to worst. All right, so some things looking to get across the line here pretty soon. LA Galaxy moving inches closer to the start of that 2024 season, and just 52 days until the LA Galaxy kick off against Inter Miami at Dignity Health Sports Park. A lot to get to this season still in the preseason. We'll be here next show Monday night. Show after that on Thursday night. That's right, back to 2 shows a week. We're here. We're locked in for season 16. All right, for Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody, and happy New Year.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo. And on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.